I'm going to ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting January 22nd, 2024 as amended to add an in-camera session, 11.A is what I put it in as. In-camera session to discuss a labor issue later in the meeting. And also an amendment to remove section 8.2 regarding the MOU with Foothills County and the transfer of provincial flood funds. I do not believe we are in the position to be going down that road when we're still in the middle of land negotiations with Foothills County landholders down the Little Bow. We do not know yet where that financial outcome is going to be settling out. So I don't believe we should be going into any other MOU. We're in a weird position that the province has put us in, that we have to handle their funds and distribute them to another municipality. But they've made us do it, so I just think it's way premature when that is still ongoing down on the Little Bow. So that's my requested amendments. Councillor Kinghorn, if you accept the motion.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. You have my motion.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Consent agenda. Ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that an omnibus motion adopts the following in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw, the January 8th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes as presented and our strategic priorities chart.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Any public comments outside of the delegation from what the BSRC concerns? The BSRC concerns are going to be dealt with directly by Dr. Linda Ormson and Kathy Avery-Dinas. So any other comments outside of that? See none? We will move. Oh, sorry, Paula. Is it to do with, I know you sent an email regarding the BSRC, so if it's about the BSRC, Paula, I'm going to ask you just to hold tight for now until we have the delegation as the representatives from that group. Is that fair? Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, we'll go right into the delegation, and I know Linda and Kathy are right here. And just so whenever we get into these positions where we're talking about staff and labor and everything else, if we get to a position where I feel it's best to go in camera, because we will not discuss individual staff members or anything like that. We're not doing that in public meetings in this town. That's a no-go. We will move in camera. Everybody can leave. It'll be council, Chris, and the two of you. Then we can discuss specifics if that's required. Okay? Go ahead. I'll get you there, Kathy.
Oh, okay.
There you are.
Good. Okay, so I just wanted to, my name's Kathy Avery-Dinas, and I'm just speaking to an issue at the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Complex, which Craig introduced. And I'm just going to read a letter drafted by Dr. Linda Ormson, and it was sent to Riley McCurcher, Director of Municipal Services, on January 9th. Dear Sir, thank you for taking a few moments of your time to hear the voices of many concerned patrons of the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Centre. The focus of this letter is to share with you some extreme behaviors of the management staff of the Aquatics Department. Prior to writing this letter, we perused the organizational leadership charts for the town, noting a mission statement depicted in a diagram. This diagram had 3 parts which focused on our why, to make a positive difference now and for future generations, our what, people first, who are the core of all we do, and finally our how, we think and act in ways to realize the why. As the signatures below will attest to, these values are not being upheld by the aquatics management of the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Centre. For the past number of years, the mature staff, men and women over the age of 30, who are highly certified in a variety of programs, work diligently for the betterment of their patrons of all ages, have been dismissed. This history has a pattern. When these very qualified and experienced staff raise questions or make positive suggestions for the betterment of the facility, they are bullied and within a short period of time fired without cause. Then told not to speak about this to anyone or they will not receive a severance payment. This example happened as recently as Friday, January 5th, and thus has resulted in the writing of this letter. Who remains as aquatic staff are 20-year-olds and younger, who are very intimidated by the current management staff and work in fear of losing their jobs if they should voice an opinion. Many of the undersigned have watched as these experienced personnel have left this bullying environment to work in neighboring communities at their aquatics facilities. As community taxpayers and patrons of the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Center, we expect professional behavior from all management staff, including the Human Resources Department of our town. Friendship, comrades, and barbecue buddies have no room when making professional decisions. Building a working team includes good management skills and being willing to listen to the frontline team members who carry experience to make the aquatics programs even better. The Bob Snodgrass Recreation Center is more than a building housing sports. It is a community gathering place where people of all ages come to enhance their health and well-being, which includes one's body, mind, and spirit of all patrons and employees. Relationships are built here. Joy is found here. Wellness is found here. We invite you to look again at the High River Town's mission statement of our why, what, and how, and ask, is the current management of the Aquatics Department fulfilling these goals? To end this narrative, on behalf of the undersigned, I will offer my contact information so that if you wish to speak with any of the dismissed or current staff, and with their permission, of course, would give you their contact information. Thank you for listening. It is greatly appreciated with the hopes that together we can make positive changes for the betterment of all and for this wonderful community of High River. And that was written by Dr. Linda Ormson, Bachelor of Nursing Distinction, Master of Arts in Liturgy, Master of Theology, and a Doctorate in Ministry. And it was accompanied by 27 current pool user signatures. And I do know it was, there was a reply from Riley, and it was forwarded on to the CAO and others within the town of High River. So it's our hope that as elected officials, and that you are here representing the people of High River, that this concern be looked into because of the huge number of staff that have been let go. And I know that the CEO is one of the responsibilities of that the council is responsible for that one employee. So that the CAO gives it serious consideration. And I just with the current issues that are going on and the $15 million facility that's on the books, that I'm thinking that this kind of thing would have to be looked after prior to that going forward, or hopefully before it goes forward. So anyway, and I think Linda had.
Thanks, Kathy. Linda?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff, thank you again for listening. In my career as a registered nurse and ministry work as chaplain in this community, I've always believed that each team member of any organization carries experience and wisdom, and leaders have the responsibility to listen to the added value of all those team members. I've strived as a professional to walk softly and carry a big smile, not trod heavily with a big stick. So may I be bold enough to suggest that most people who are hired are hired based on their credentials and not necessarily on team management or interpersonal skills. The council may not be aware of how the Aquatics Department of the Recreation Center has developed a very negative reputation of staff bullying and body shaming in this community, and the surrounding communities of Okotoks and Nanton do talk about this. And when there's a pattern of intimidation in a workplace, something is very wrong. I believe in a healthy community for a person's body, mind, and spirit, as I addressed in my initial letter on behalf of many, many patrons of the Bob Snodgrass Center. And the aquatics activities, all of this and more of all of the patrons of all ages are affected by these behaviors. I encourage you, I implore you to dig deep and help root out the cause of this toxic behavior. And thank you very much again for your time and for listening.
Thanks, Linda. We absolutely take these allegations very, very seriously. There's no question. And we will be moving in camera this afternoon to meet with our HR department as well as Nancy, and council will be discussing this, your delegation with them. A question that I have is, when we're talking about bullying behavior, and it's a yes or no question right now, do you have specific examples that you wish to share with us during our in-camera session? And the reason why I ask that is because just saying, well, there's bullying and everything there, okay, that's a pretty big blanket statement. Kind of got it.
I believe there's 38 staff members who have been let go and they have felt very strongly about being bullied, body shamed,
Okay.
and a few other things. Some of those people are here today. That's really all I would say.
Well, maybe we'll just leave it. We'll just leave
yeah,
it there. I appreciate.
yeah. Again, I think I'm considering confidentiality, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I appreciate that. So we'll discuss it with council here this afternoon in camera and figure out a way forward as to what, because absolutely this doesn't just get swept under the rug and made to go away.
Thank you.
So, okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
time.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Dr. Urmson. Okay, moving straight into 2024 budget motions. David?
Okay, good afternoon, Council. You have before you a request for decision to adopt the 2024 operating budget of $32.985 million and the capital and special projects budget of $24.11 million as required under subsection 242.1 and section 245 of the Municipal Government Act. As you are aware, Council and Administration have completed numerous conversations over these past number of weeks on the 2024 budget, striking a delicate balance between service level commitments to our community, municipal taxation, and the long-term financial sustainability of the town. All these elements are supported by a budget that effectively uses funding from our government partners in the form of grants, that generates non-government and non-taxation revenues wherever practicable, that invests funds generated through cost containment strategies to support town strategic priorities, and that ultimately leads to responsible tax increases and effective use of reserves. The adoption of the 2024 operating, capital, and special projects budgets will allow the town of High River to continue operating and capital activities as a going concern, while providing the financial means for the town to continue offering programs and services to the community. Upon adopting the 2024 operating capital and special projects budget and pursuant to subsection 242.3 of the Municipal Government Act, the interim budget that Council adopted on December the 11th, 2023 ceases to have any effect. As noted within the request for decision, Administration recommends the adoption of the 2024 operating capital and special projects budget as presented. Yeah, that concludes my comments.
Thanks, David. Any questions from council? Obviously, this has been discussed for the last couple of months. And this meeting was just to approve what we discussed at the last committee of the whole meeting. So now the motion that I'm going to read, we adjusted it a little bit because discussing with Chris this morning, didn't feel like it was completely clear for the public exactly what this means to them. So we wanted to make darn sure that when we do this motion that everybody understands what it absolutely is. So question from Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Going back to that last meeting that you brought up, we had talked about a 3.2% tax increase to the residents, and now I see we're at 2.35. So congratulations for bringing it down. Is that the right term? Did we cut a little bit out of the budget to get to that 2.35, or are we taking it from somewhere else, reserves, whatever?
So the 2.35 is revenue increase. The 3.2% is the actual tax increase because we need to take a portion of the tax increase and remit to the province for special education funding.
So the actual tax increase to the residents is 3.3. Our portion is 2.5 that we get to keep. The rest of it is the education requisition, all those.
The requisitions component of the taxation, yes.
So that's where we've discussed in how we word these, and just saying a 3.3% tax increase really doesn't mean a whole bunch to most people, but this is you break it down to what the actual dollar value is on an assessed home of 404. Average residential assessed home in High River is $445,000, which equates to approximately $81 per year or $6.75 a month increase, average. Any other questions? I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that Council approve the 2024 operating budget of $32.985 million with a 3.3% tax increase that will cost the average residential assessed home of $445,000, approximately $81 per year or $6.75 per month. And the Council adopt the 2024 capital and special projects budget in the amount of $24.11 million, including new projects of $7.422 million, increases to existing projects of $9.3 million, and carry forward projects of $7.388 million, consistent with the enclosed 2024 capital and special projects budget schedule, and that Council approve the use of $645,000 from the Tax Stabilization Fund to reduce the municipal tax increase.
I will give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, David. Operating expenditures, housekeeping thing now that we've passed the budget. You want to speak to it at all?
Yes, sir. Yeah. You have before you a request for decision to pass bylaw 4623, 2024. The 2024 operating expenditure line of credit bylaw is required under sections 251 and 256 of the Municipal Government Act. The passing of this bylaw is an annual requirement under the Act. The passing of this bylaw authorizes the town to borrow from the Royal Bank of Canada sums of money from time to time to meet the current operating expenditures of the town until taxes are collected, provided that the total principal sum owed to RBC at any one time shall not exceed the sum of $7 million. Upon passing this bylaw, Bylaw 4611, 2023, the 2023 operating line of credit is repealed. As noted within a request for decision, administration recommends the passing of Bylaw 4623, 2024, the 2024 operating expenditure line of credit bylaw as presented. And that concludes my comments.
Thanks, David. Questions from council? It's something we have to do every year, so. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council give first reading to bylaw 4623, 2024, operating expenditures line of credit, and that council give second reading to the previously mentioned bylaw, and that all council give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading of previously mentioned bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4623 2024 operating expenditures line of credit, and that council repeal bylaw 4611 2023, the 2023 operating line of credit bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, David. The last one, David, and then you can go do something constructive.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sure you're busy.
Before you
Got
a
some money
request-
to spend now, so get you out of here.
You have before you a request for a decision to pass bylaw 4624, 2024, the 2024 supplementary assessment bylaw as required under Part 9, Division 4 of the Municipal Government Act. The passing of this bylaw before May 1st of each year is an annual requirement under the Act. The passing of this bylaw authorizes the town to prepare supplementary assessments for the purpose of imposing a tax under Part 10 of the Act in the same year, a tax that will provide the financial means for the town to continue offering programs and services to the community. Upon passing this bylaw, Bylaw 4610, 2023, the 2023 supplementary assessment bylaw is repealed. As noted within the request for decision, administration recommends the passing of bylaw 4624, 2024, the 2024 supplementary assessment bylaw as presented. And that concludes my comments.
Thanks, David. Any questions from council? Ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council give first reading to bylaw 4624, 2024, the supplementary assessment, and that council give second reading previously mentioned bylaw, and that all council give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading of the previously mentioned bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. You have my motion.
Okay. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4624, 2024 supplementary assessment, and that council repeal bylaw 4610, 2023, the 2023 supplementary assessment bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Easy money. Election sign bylaw. Jody?
Yes, thank you. So administration is recommending that council repeal the former election sign bylaw as well as the amended election sign bylaw and replace both with this new election sign bylaw. The primary changes are to the requirement to perform a utility locate prior to installing any signs in the designated areas. You will see that within the bylaw, there are 10 designated areas, and formally it was directed that anyone putting any of those spikes to secure their signs performed locates in advance. This has now moved in the new bylaw to be a town responsibility, which would be performed within the 30 days before the election signs are able to be placed on the public lands. This will make it easier for all of the candidates and campaign managers. Another change is that the 10 locations where the election signs are permitted on public lands will be marked accordingly by the town to clearly identify the areas. So depending on if it's grass or something that can be spray painted, then those areas will be marked out. If it's dirt or something of that nature, we're looking at flags or something to indicate the border of that area. This way, signs that are within the area are permitted. Bylaw had been noticing with previous elections that the signs were sort of creeping, but there was no real defined area, so we'll be doing that as well. And then lastly, there are some small amendments or clarifications to allow bylaw services to enforce the bylaw as needed. There was just some wording in there that we cleaned up to make it a little bit clearer as to what bylaw can enforce. With that, if council has any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Excellent. Thanks, Jody. It's always confusing for everybody every year, so the more we can clean this up and learn from where we have been to where we're going is fantastic. So, any other questions? That's for a motion from Councillor Smith that council give first reading to bylaw 4617-2024 being the election sign bylaw, and the council give second reading to the previously mentioned bylaw, and that all council present give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading of the previously mentioned bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. As for a motion from Councillor Jones, that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4617-2024 being the election sign bylaw, and the council repeal bylaw 4561-2019 and bylaw 4602-2021.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Now, did you say creeping or creepy?
Creepy,
Right.
not creepy.
All right. I want to be clear. Charles Clark, CCMC Property Management Services. Jody?
All right, thank you. So, as you know, the town acquired full ownership and operational control of the Charles Clark Medical Center, or I typically refer to it as the CCMC, as of December 29th, 2023, which was the last business day of 2023. As the acquisition of the facility is beyond the current resources to support the property management at the level the current tenants are accustomed to, administration recognized the need to provide these services through another means. So, council gave direction and administration posted a request for proposal, or an RFP, last month to evaluate the options for providing property management services for this newly acquired municipal property. And administration received 5 responses. Of the 5, 2 were late, so they were discounted. 1 proposed a different model to consult on the services required, so wasn't quite what we were looking for. And 1 did not acknowledge the addenda, which was a requirement to ensure the full understanding of the RFP. There were actually, sorry, I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 that were posted as addendums to the original RFP, and there was not that acknowledgement in there. So this left 1 viable option that administration explored and did an interview with the company, and they appear to be able to provide the services quite well. Although they are located out of Calgary, they do provide their property management services already to a couple of other High River organizations. So administration is recommending that council award a 3-year contract for the CCMC property management services to Edon Property Inc., which is operating as Edon Management, and the annual costs are just over $113,000 per year, excluding GST, and then any potential additional annual operating requirements, such as if a mechanical failures such as a boiler were to go down, they would have to call in the appropriate expertise for those areas. Does council have any questions on this one?
Thanks, Jody. Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Jody. Appreciate that 4 out of the 5 were not really usable. I understand you said that you kind of had some experience-based information as they provide service in town. I'm assuming that provided a lot of context for us, because if we didn't get to review some other companies that responded to the RFP for whatever reasons that they had there, seemingly we had 1 response that was valid that we could look at. I'm not at all questioning the ability of administration whatsoever, but I guess just what made us comfortable in that we had 1 respondent that was valid, and the parameters that you guys looked at awarding the contract.
Absolutely, it's a fair question. So of the 2 that were late, 1, this was an expansion to their current business. They, according to the RFP, what we understood was that they are more so in property design, not so much property management. So they were looking to expand the service provision that they're able to provide. So even though that one was late, we did kind of still look at their proposal. The other one that was late, this was also an expansion to their services. They did have a bit better understanding was demonstrated within the RFP, but it still was not to the extent of EDON that is in this business. They have provided their services to Alberta Health Services and other government-type organizations, so that's why we felt quite comfortable going forward with them.
Thanks much. That last bit gives me a bunch of validation. Thank you.
No further questions? Ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that council award a 3-year contract for the CCMC Property Management Services to EDON Property, Inc. EDON Management approximate to the value of approximately $113,283.99 per year, excluding GST and potential additional annual operational requirements, and that council authorize the mayor and CAO to execute the property management services contract with EDON Property, Inc.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you that motion as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jody. Okay, 8.2 has been removed, so 8.3. Now, regarding the biodigester, we submitted an appeal after we heard about the approval of the biodigester and we submitted the appeal based on our dissatisfaction with the way that Tidewater and Rimrock have designed the liquid digestate ponds. We would like to see that product be fully enclosed and at the very least have some type of covering over it to keep the wind off of it if there was ever an odor that came off of those ponds, that it would not drift into High River. As well, we are still, and more so, we're seeing the lack of proper, what we think is proper regulation surrounding these biodigesters. They're, yes, they've been around, but it's been pretty loose as to how they've been regulated. So that's what we put the appeal in to the government on the approval. We did receive a letter, what's the date of this thing? January 19th from the Environmental Appeals Board that they have declined our appeal on the basis that we did not submit an SOC, a statement of concern, when the project was first announced. The problem with that is that the only ones that knew about this project are that Tidewater had to notify were only within a 2-kilometer radius of the project. So we didn't even know about it until we heard about it, and then at that point in time, the SOC deadline had long passed. So that's what, we're not ending there. Like a good fight, and this might be a good one, but we are pushing back because before we did the appeal, we asked our legal as to whether we can even appeal because we didn't submit an SOC, and yes, there is legislation and law that says yes, you can appeal if you are, even though you didn't file an SOC, if you are directly affected by a project, then you can still appeal it. So that's the basis that we made the appeal, and we will be fighting back against the Environmental Appeals Board for declining our appeal. So that's where we're at. Michael, anything to add? That's where we're at. So game on. Good. Okay. That's on that one. Council reports, anything? Board and committee reports from anybody? Chris, you wanted to make a comment going back to the budget?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Just want to provide clarity for all of council and the members of the public. The 3.3% tax increase does not include the provincial requisitions. We have not seen those requisitions yet. That will be in addition to the 3.3% tax increase, if there was any confusion on that. So the municipal portion of our tax increase is a full 3.3%, which translates into 2.35% gross revenue increase to the municipality for operations. I hope that clarifies that. The requisition piece that our manager of financial services said is not included in that.
Okay, so when will we know what that looks like?
The provincial requisitions usually don't come out until after the budget, the provincial budget, which is released in the end of March.
Okay.
And we see those in early April.
Okay. Any public comments? Paula, did you want to go now? If you can state your name, please, because we have no idea who you are.
My name is Paula Elliott. I've never really heard a politician say, "Oh, I'm up for a good fight." That's awesome. I don't know that there's any way that I can add to what the delegation for the Aquatics program said. It was articulate, intelligent, and well thought out. I suppose what I would emphasize is that regardless of how many sides there are to any story, where there's smoke, there is always fire. And it concerns me a great deal to watch the young children of our community begin their aquatics training at a very young age. You know, typically under 5 years old, they begin their swimming lessons. It starts then. They make a dedicated effort to learn pool water safety. They then go on to their CPR training. They then go on to their lifeguard skills. It's rigorous. They know more about first aid and safety than any adult in this room, most likely. These are our kids who grow up in this town. They are part of my family, part of my circle of friends, and it really disheartens me to think that one of their first jobs is with the town facility, and it's a toxic workplace. That is appalling. It's appalling. And also, I am part of the advisory, I don't know what to call myself. I sit in a capacity on the board, or on the committee for the pool expansion. And in all seriousness, there's no way that the pool can staff an expansion when they can barely staff what's going on right now. And I have heard lifeguards say, we've been told to be careful who we align ourselves with. And you can get in touch with any one of those 12 people that the delegation has a list of. Ask them what their stories are. We don't need to discuss what their stories are. They can share them with you in a safe environment.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Game on.
Yes, ma'am. Come forward.
My name is KJ Johnson. I'm a former aquatics and all older adult exercise programmer, or not programmer, but facilitator at the Bob Snodgrass. I was not let go. I just didn't renew my contract. But I would like everybody to be aware that the situation expanded more than aquatics. All of the different upstairs classes were also affected. So you could call me too.
Appreciate it. Thanks, KJ. Lee?
I would really ask you, in the sense of getting the best information that you can get today, to take the people in the audience that have been let go back in camera and have them speak first. when you asked if there was any instances of bullying, these people have your answer to that question, and I would really request that you allow them to come with you in camera. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll discuss how we're going to proceed with that. Lee, thank you. Anybody else? Yep, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Heather DuPont. I'm a former employee, but I worked there more than a decade ago, so you would think this probably doesn't affect me. But I have a niece and nephew who are young, and I've worked in aquatics for over 15 years. So I would just like to add, if there are not older people working in aquatics and it's just young people, and there is an emergency or a death, which happens, and you're working with people whose brains are not fully developed yet, and they are new to this, it can be traumatic and it can stay with them forever. As a 17-year-old, I had to do a Heimlich maneuver on a person, and I was fortunate enough to have older people around me, and I was taken and debriefed for half an hour in tears, and it still stays with me. As an older person doing the Heimlich maneuver, I was able to bounce back and just keep going. And it was, although it was upsetting, because I had experience giving first aid in a life or death situation, I was able to bounce back. I really hope that everyone is heard today. I am not wanting my niece to have to go through this situation and not have someone who's over 18 at the facility who is a lifeguard there to support her. I think that would be really tragic. I worked at Fort McMurray, two pools in Fort McMurray. There was a fatality at one of them, not when I worked there, but still. It was an amazing pool. It was the best pool I've ever worked at as far as safety goes. And it still happened. It does happen. Thank God it hasn't happened, I don't think, at your pool. But I really hope that action is taken before this happens. And especially with young people working at a pool, if they don't have people who are experienced and are able to guide them and lead them. And I'm not putting down the younger staff at all, because I went there and they were so friendly and they were so conscientious. But for their sake, I truly hope that the older staff are brought back. I actually worked with some of the older staff who were let go, and I know who they are. And I think they're absolutely, I'd want my children in their classes. And I'm really discouraged that they were let go. There are different personality types, I recognize that. But if you want your child trained and then that child to be the lifeguard one day, these are the people you want teaching them. So thank you for listening.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Heather. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to add, I am also a former employee. I was, in the end of my term, deck lead, so I was overseeing everything. I won't lie, how I got to that position was very tough. There was definitely pushback. I want to add on what's been said. It's not only that we don't have that older staff for the emergencies, but I worry now that, like it was said before, we're going to have no staff at all for this pool. We have let go everyone that can work those daytimes. Our staff right now, that is the oldest, are in university. They come back every other weekend, maybe, if they can. So my worry is for the community itself. You know, we're going to get to a point where we've let go of everyone. We can't have the pool open middays. We might not be able to have the pool open on the weekends. And I've heard it been said that they don't care. It doesn't matter. They'll just shut it down. So my worry is not only for the staff, but for the community as a whole. So, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. on, Megan.
Sorry.
There, I got you.
Hi, my name is Megan Roy, and I was a former lifeguard. I was recently terminated without cause January 4th. I loved my job, absolutely every part of it. And I do have those examples for you, Mayor, if you would like to speak to me. I do echo every sentiment that's been said here. It's an ongoing issue, it's a problem, and it needs to be addressed for the best interest of the community, for the best interest of the patrons, of everybody, especially in regards to looking at an expansion. I think it's high time it does be addressed. So I'd be more than happy to sit with you. I've got a lot of things documented. I recently went to HR with a grievance, and on the back end of that was terminated without cause. So I do believe that alone is kind of a red flag in the bullying and harassment department. So.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, Megan. Will?
Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Will Gillick. I was also formerly a member of the aquatic staff, and I was also recently let go on January 4th. I had, a couple months prior, brought up a complaint against our management, and I have feelings that this would be one of the reasons why I was let go. I was also one of the last few, like Megan, who was over the age of 20 as a member of the aquatic staff and who had experience. I do feel that me bringing this complaint against the town and further down the line got me terminated without cause. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Dr. Linda, I got a question for you. You mentioned that in your delegation, or maybe Kathy, you've got it, you've got a list of the individuals that have been let go. Do we?
No, I don't have a list, but I know that there are lots that have
Okay.
approached Linda and us.
Okay. Okay. So you want?
Hi, my name is Raylene Pitek. I'm the former aquatic supervisor for the town of High River. Approximately 2 years ago, I was let go without cause. Seems to kind of be a theme. Unfortunately, with that being said, non-disclosure agreements come in part of that when receiving severance payments. So unfortunately, I have to be very vague in what I'm speaking to. Being a national trainer for the Life Saving Society for the past 21 years now, I have a big standing with them, and is also with the Red Cross when it comes to lifeguarding. I stand very, very strong on what it means to be a lifeguard. I represent and do lots of speeches with the Life Saving Society and those organizations. It really, really frustrates me to see my previous employees, as well as coworkers and people who are actually doing this job in these positions. I speak very passionately when it comes to what we actually do. It's not taken very seriously by a lot of people. We are first responders to the first responders. We don't only have to respond and treat, we also have to recognize first. There is no other first responder that has to do that. It's unfortunate that a lot of the training has taken a back seat. It's unfortunately that a lot of the lifeguards do not feel supported. It's also really incredibly unfortunate these are 16-year-olds. I can't even express to you my concern on what it means to pull a kid off the bottom of the pool who's not breathing, who's puking. I can't express to you what it means to do CPR on an adult who's had a heart attack and watch the 16-year-olds have to try and open an AED no matter the training that they have. Our training here previously was impeccable. Our staff were confident. Our lifeguards were amazing. And we were very, very blessed to have that team. Not only our programs, everything grew, and I can't thank our team that we had enough. It's really unfortunate to watch this crumble And I can't express to you, being through some of those emergency situations, with my training that I had, it was a priority to ensure that these lifeguards were prepared. And I can say that they were definitely that and beyond. It incredibly frustrates me where we are, but unfortunately having non-disclosure agreements attached to all of us and being let go without cause on multiple ends has caused us to have our hands tied in these discussions around bullying and inappropriate behavior, which I also previously experienced through the town of High River when I was let go without cause through having discussions about my experiences. I had no previous performance issues, and I was there for the town for over 7 years. This is a big issue. I'm concerned about the lifeguards on the pool deck. I'm concerned that we don't have experience. I'm concerned that we are hiring people to run aquatics that have no aquatic experience. Would you hire a firefighter to run an accounting department? Why are we hiring people who have no aquatics experience to run aquatics? It is a very deadly space. People will die. And it is very unfortunate because it's 16-year-olds who are holding, and when they don't have supervisors and leaders who are willing to step up and support them and train them appropriately, this will happen. There is recently a case in just north of Edmonton where a lifeguard was charged because they didn't respond appropriately to a situation. That is a big part of our job. And without proper training and without being taken seriously like first responders, which I advocate very highly in our society today, that we are bigger than just a 16-year-old standing on the pool deck. The amount of responsibilities and training that these people have are huge. They take your children and they teach them how to swim. They are children teaching children, and you hand them over to them and you trust them with them. I highly, highly ask that you take this into deep consideration. I'm also a member of the community, but I think something we don't take in consideration when we let go of lifeguards without cause, if you don't have a reason to fire us, then what are we doing? We're not doing anything horrible. What does this look like, and why do we continue to do this without cause? When I was let go, we don't have multiple facilities that you can just go work at. You actually have to relocate to another organization. You have to relocate and uplift yourself and move on, because there's one pool typically in each community. And I pride myself on small communities. I love small communities. I think their heart is huge. I think that we're so much more connected, and we connect with the children and the people in them. And unfortunately, nobody is feeling connected. This is something that I take seriously, and I bring myself here to pride myself on the lifeguards that you have had and that you will have moving forward. And I thank them for all of that, the work that they do.
Thanks, Raylene. Okay. I think we'll adjourn this meeting and move in camera to discuss with Sonia and Nancy. So the only ones that will be present for this session, and then we'll be coming out of in camera and adjourning the meeting. So I will ask for a motion to pause the regular council meeting and move in camera at 3:52. Motion from Councillor Smith, please.
You have that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Nydchuk that we move out of the in-camera session, reconvene the regular meeting of council.
Give that motion to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. One motion coming out of the in-camera session. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that Council direct administration to launch a full third-party workplace review into all operations of our aquatics facility at the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Complex.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Council correspondence for information. Correspondence from the Lomond Library. Correspondence regarding Too Dumb for Democracy. Didn't read it. Correspondence regarding single-use product bylaws, and correspondence from AHS. Any questions, comments on that? All good. Meeting adjourned 4:36.